Income wise, I think I'm sitting at about 250,000 for the year so far.
Okay, so 5 months in, 250K at half street level. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Annuity Fundamentals. I'm Ryan Anderson. I'm your host. And today is the second episode of a two-part series with Keith Petersen. And Keith and I have been talking about the different paths that insurance agents can take within the insurance, the life and health world. And so I just kind of want to give everybody a quick recap on what we covered last week. So Keith and I started in the insurance industry together. We were part of the same team in an office 10 years ago. Longtime friend, wanted to get him on the podcast for a lot of months, and he and I started in a Medicare shop, and we started up there and we started selling Medicare and hospital indemnities, and we stumbled into the occasional annuity. And then after that, he and I got promoted and we moved into management. I went one direction, he went another. I had a great success within the management experience. Keith did not, and you can hear about that in our last episode. And then he went on, and his personal life kind of took him to the Bay Area in California, and he started there, and he worked as basically a W-2 employee working with an organization that did annuity appointments. And you had significantly less comp as a W-2 employee, but you had your income went up because they were able to book a lot more appointments. They then went through, and there was a shift at that point in time. Again, this is just kind of a recap from last week. And they moved away. With COVID, they had a hard time getting in front of new people, so they wanted to work old people using AUM. And at that point in time, that's kind of where we left it last week, is that you went through, AUM was where you wanted to be. Then what happened? Or they wanted you to be there, but you weren't there because you're not securities licensed. You're just, you only got your life and health licenses still. So kind of talk to us about what happened then.
So that's basically when I left the company. They were wanting to do more of the AUM side, and I was actually losing income because they kept sending me back to the same people over and over again. We weren't generating any new appointments. So new appointments are obviously very important in our world. It's great to have the relationships with your old clients, and it's great to go back and farm your clients for other opportunities or things that they may need, but you still need to have new appointments. Mm-hmm. So essentially what happened is I just started looking for other options and went back to the company I was with before because I had spoken with the CEO of the company, and she told me they had some different lead generation programs, a lot more marketing dollars available, and a lot more opportunity to generate business, which sounded great. So that's what I did. Back to the old company.
All right, now let's go ahead. I want to talk a little bit about this. Now, back to the old company, that was an LOA model, license-only agent model, where you got to own your renewals. But in fact, the renewals there, that was one of the big things that that you and I both still talked about. Real positive with that organization is I haven't been with them for a number of years, but I'm still getting paid every month from them, which is kind of a nice thing. And because of the Medicare type of piece. Focusing on annuities, if you sell an annuity, you only get paid when you sell an annuity. You sell a Medicare supplement or Advantage plan, you've got money for years. And so very different model there. And so you left the company that was giving you a whole bunch of appointments. Your income was probably some of the best you've ever had in your life. And you went back to an organization where you weren't quite street level, but you were a lot closer to it. They gave you a bump in your contract level and kind of go from there. So share what happened with that then there.
So what happened there was I went back to a model of generating my own appointments. Mm-hmm. Getting leads and getting appointments are two entirely different things. When you get leads, you still have to generate appointments out of them. And that was definitely something I hadn't done for a while. So there was a bit of a transition in there of going back to that system for me.
What kind of what kind of systems did you use to generate those leads?
Some seminars,
Uh huh.
some uh, online lead generation companies where we were just buying the leads and then they would show up on an email, text message,
Hmm.
and otherwise. And then you would just call, you just reach out and call people.
Were these Medicare leads, or were they annuity leads, or something else?
Well, I did have some of the Medicare leads from when I first went back,
Hmm.
but mostly what I was trying to focus on was annuities because that's where my expertise had been for the last few years. So that's, you know, where I was generating my income from. Like we talked about, and you just mentioned, that renewal income was really nice back when I built it up before, and it actually kind of helped me get started. And where I was talking about having a little bit of a ramp up period when I first started with the other company. So it's nice to have that income. I don't have that anymore, but it was a nice benefit. So lead generation, generating your own appointments is definitely much more challenging, though, even with leads, even being fed a stream of leads. So there is a definitely a talent to that.
Okay, so you're back with the old company you were at previously, and they are a model that we came up with. They're a Medicare house. They're wanting you to get into annuities. They are financially supporting you by getting you leads. They're getting you seminars. They're doing all those kinds of things. What happened?
The amount of money that was available for marketing dollars was not even close to covering enough leads to get enough appointments to keep me busy.
Okay.
So I ended up farming my old clients myself and
Hmm.
generating more opportunities. So it was, again, a model of unsustainable, let's say.
All right. So as far as they've got they're helping you, but you're still trying to get in front of enough people. That's really the name of the game. And so you realize, okay, with the current model I've got here, I'm not getting in front of enough people. And then at that point in time, you tried that for I think it was another year and a half, something like that. You went back to that old organization that we were with. Was that about how long you were there?
Yeah,
And
about that.
then, okay, this isn't working. I need to find something new. And what did you do after that?
Well, in the meantime, I had been getting emails, recruiting emails from uh, a guy who was very predominant in the annuity world
Hmm.
who sold his company and then started another company. And he was essentially picking up where the company I left before
Hmm.
left off in the marketing of the seminar marketing.
Hmm.
He took over and helped them to grow significantly. And so they generate a ton of appointments for him. And now, and anyway, he had been sending me emails every month or every other month. And so I called him and I talked to him, and he knew exactly who I was, and he knew
Hmm.
the company that I had been working for before, the owner of the company. And he said, "Well, when you're ready, come on over. We got a place for you." So I gave him a call, had another interview with him, and they flew me to their home office and spent a weekend talking and ended up back doing that same type of appointment where it's already generated for me and a little less commission as far as street level goes, but way more activity and generating way more money.
Okay. So now, as we come back to this, now a couple different things here, and I want to talk about the different models here. And there are lots of models out there, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong model, but I think there is a right and a wrong model for individuals. And so there's things that you gravitate towards. So right now, you have found over the last decade of your experience in there that for you personally, that if we were to look at that, having a organization where they generate the leads for you and they put appointments on a calendar for you and you go close, that works really, really well for you. And you're totally comfortable getting less. It's about half street, I think, is kind of where you're at. Is where I don't know if that's where you're at, but that's generally where that model works at. Is it there's a big pay differential there. And the reason for that, and let's talk about the business model, is that these companies, whether they're using online marketing, whether they're using seminars, whether they're using offshore calling, whether there is a significant expense that the company is absorbing to get those appointments on your calendar. So agents that think, okay, I want a company where they're going to put 10, 15 appointments on my calendar for me, that these are pre-qualified people, I expect street level and go from there. That's a pipe dream. That doesn't exist. But if you want I want qualified people, I want appointments on there, you're going to have to give up a level of commission for that, and but your income is going to go up because of volume. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair statement for sure.
All right, and then we've got the other model, and so that's the model that you've done really, really well with. And then so we're 5 months into the year. How much have you ballpark? As far as, I don't need an exact number, but where are you at as far as business closed year to date?
Income or business close?
Yeah.
Income wise, I think I'm sitting at about 250,000 for the year so far.
Okay, so 5 months in, 250K at half street level. All right. So, because what I see is a lot of agents will go through and they're going to see, well, I'm making, a quarter below street here, so I'm going to go over and get the street level, but you don't take into consideration all the things that you've lost. Now, as we're going through and looking at that, for me personally, I go through, and the model that I like is I go through and I run my own seminars. And and I use leadshop.org to fill the room for me. They do an amazing job over there. But I get the full street. But if I was to go through and calculate the amount of thousands of dollars a month that I spend to fill the seminar, there's a difference there. And so I can't just say I get the higher level without taking into consideration the expense that it takes to get me there and the time and everything else. Now, I prefer that model because I'm kind of a control freak and I like to be in charge of where I go and what I do and everything else. But as we're talking here for insurance agents and other folks out there, that going through and doing one or the other, that as far as that there are other options out there for you. You don't have to run your own seminars. You can partner with an organization like who you're with, and they can go through and they'll fill your calendar for you, and do expect less. I've got other agents out there that, all right, so I'm a salaried agent. I actually just visited with a Medicare agent like this here a couple weeks ago. She has a salary, makes about $80,000 a year. That's her income. And she gets $50 finder's fee for every Medicare supplement or advantage plan she gets. She does not own the business. And she has a quota of having to close, I think, 20 a month. Something like that. So she's got to close 240 Medicare plans a year. She doesn't get to keep them, and her only increase is that $50 finder's fee she finds on each one of them. So, and she's basically, if you go through and you look at that, was that about $1,200 or something along those lines, $12,000? What I can't remember the exact number. It's not a lot. And when she leaves, she's done. She doesn't get any residuals. She doesn't do anything else. But for her big thing is, I am a single mom. I've got kids at home. I need that stable piece. Once I get to a point of time where I've got enough of a reserve, then I can look at using these same models and systems to generate my business. But for her as well, the company is she just sits at home on the phone and takes calls every day. 100% remote. She doesn't have to generate her own leads. The phone just rings and she closes sales. So again, which is a lot different than what you and I used to do.
Right.
Here's the lead, grind out 300 phone calls in a day and hope that they actually show up when you book it. I mean, versus it was like, hello, what can I sell you? I mean, there's a difference there.
Exactly. Isn't that the truth?
No, I know this is a loaded question, but are there things about the different models that you like better that you missed? You could, if you had to create a hybrid, what would you want to do?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely things about the renewal system that I miss. I spent enough time with the other company where we did generate renewals that I know people who wake up on January 1st and they know that they've got $500,000 coming into their account this year.
Yeah.
In nothing but Medicare renewals.
Yeah.
And anything that they do over and above that, it's just gravy over the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty awesome. You can't deny that, that's for sure. But having somebody to put the appointments on my calendar and then just showing up and running the appointments and then following up from there is a great model for me. I like it a lot. I have been very successful at it. And with the current organization that I'm with, you hit certain production levels, maintain certain levels of closing ratios, and you end up getting more than just the original amount. Like we were talking about last night, you get quarterly bonuses, which can really put another 10% on top of what you already made. So 10% a quarter. So that's pretty awesome. It actually makes a big difference. Chasing it is the hard part. As we get older, we get tired of driving around, and I do a lot of driving. That's for sure. That's one of the downsides of what I do. I probably put 3,500 to 4,000 miles a month on my car.
Oh, wow.
So there's that.
All right, so as we go through and look at this here, the real thing here we want folks to understand is there are different models out there, but there are pluses and minuses with all of them. As far as that, if you want to sit at home and have people call you, there's a model for that. The downside to that is you're not going to own your business as a general rule, and you're not going to your compensation is not going to grow as big as others could. If you want to go through and you want to get street level commissions, then you're going to have to go through and find your own leads, or you're going to have to spend a lot more time getting in front of people with a lot more expense with that. If you want to have your appointment set, you can do that, but the idea behind it is you're going to have less comp, but you're going to have more opportunity. And then you're also at the whims, as you explained in our last episode and earlier in this one, is the people that are higher up the food chain, if their paradigm changes, if the situation changes with how they're filling the room or how they're getting leads, all of a sudden their business model will absolutely impact your income. Then we've got the other model where it's you go in with folks like where we started, where it's kind of a hybrid of stuff. They generated leads, but it was up to us to fill the room, and not fill the room, to get the appointment, excuse me. And then we had to go through and close it and find additional opportunities. It was a Medicare lead, but it was up to us to get the life and the annuity and everything else out of it. So with all of these things, each one of them have got a different strength. Each one of them's got different drawbacks, and trying to find the one that works for you and your sales approach and your sales philosophy. I mean, you've been doing this for 10 years now. You're in the top percentage of earners out there. The average insurance agent makes about $60,000 a year. You've done literally 4 times that in the first 5 months of the year. You're going to probably double that for the rest there. So we're looking at $5,600,000 a year if you keep doing what you're doing here, which is a great income, puts you in the 1%. Congrats, there you are. But the thing here is that trying to find that sweet spot, trying to find where you can get that lifestyle that works for you, that was not a short journey for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming that there was a lot of sleepless nights as well. As
For
far as
sure.
that, what were some of your big fears moving into this model?
The original company that I started with, I only had so much renewal income that I was
Mm-hmm.
bringing in. I made a move to California
Mm-hmm.
where my expenses all went up. And of course, had to give a little extra money to my ex-wife in Idaho for child support, things
Yeah.
like that, just part of the deal. But the guaranteed income part from the company was pretty short-lived. They offered, I think it was, if I remember right, it was maybe 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 a week for 8 weeks to get going, kind of as a supplemental. Uh, and they extended it a little bit for people that I felt like had potential. So they did that, but that was really the most challenging part for me, was just kind of getting going
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out how to put all the pieces together to connect with the clients, to learn the the method that we go in and we use to get in there, uh, and really focusing on their needs.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I struggle with even today is making sure that I understand what the client wants. Sometimes we go in and we think, oh, this is a perfect situation for
Fill in the blank. Yeah.
this particular, right? Yeah, fill in the blank. When really what the client is thinking is something completely different.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely a challenge, an ongoing challenge. So, we could do a whole nother 2 rounds of podcasts just based on those type of things by themselves. So I won't belabor it too much, but maybe we can do it again and focus in on some of that. That'd be fun.
That sounds like a great idea. Absolutely. You kind of go through and figure that piece out. So,
Absolutely.
as we're getting ready to wrap this up, what words of advice would you give somebody who's 6 months in the industry? They've still got that question mark on it. I used to tell agents when they started, it's like, okay, when I'd interview them and I'd get them going, I said, sometime in the next 3 months, you're going to be in my office with tears in your eyes, thinking you made a mistake. Just set your watch by it. It's going to happen. And when they came in there 2 months in and they're like, oh, and I was like, okay, hey, do you remember when I told you this was going to happen? Yeah, it's part of the process. And at that model it was. And I'm sitting here looking at it now, and I've got my son's recently started working for me in our organization, and I've got a couple other folks that have done it. We figured out some ways to get past it, so I don't have that tear-filled, crawling over broken glass first year horribleness. We've got some models here that we would develop to help get past that. But somebody new in the industry, that they're either selling Medicare, they're selling final expense, they might be doing mortgage protection, estate planning, whatever it is. What advice and counsel would you give to them to, one, buoy them up, and two, to help them figure out what they need to do?
I would say that there are two entirely different aspects of this insurance world, what I do versus the Medicare world.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I have that background, I have that information, I have that knowledge, which does sometimes help me in closing, or more, not so much closing, but gaining trust from clients that I work with now. I would say for somebody who's new, figure out what it is that you'd rather do. Would you rather make more money on the front end and not have the renewals, or would you rather have the renewals and build it up over time? But you have to get in with a company that's going to help you with marketing, because this is such a competitive industry, especially in the Medicare side, I think is
Yeah.
very, very competitive. Just all of the commercials you see on the TV, it's not just during AEP anymore. It's all year round. You see commercials for Medicare. Uh, so it's very, very competitive there. Um, but if that's your thing, then you just need to make sure that you get good leads. Make sure that you're working with a good, solid lead producer or an organization that will pay for that and to help you get going. Because I truly believe that taking a little bit of a cut when you start out, not getting full street, but getting less, but having somebody to help you to generate the appointments, it's I do that every time. I do that from the very beginning, back when we first started. If I could go back and had that opportunity, because it allows you to not worry so much about all the marketing dollars that you're putting out, but it allows you to make sure that you have a full calendar
Hmm.
and people to see. As James always said, a full calendar, a full calendar, a full calendar,
Yeah.
right?
And James was our original manager a decade ago. He's
Mm-hmm.
actually the one that came up with the company introduction in our podcast 3. He is again just a brilliant man all the way around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Said a couple of things there that really kind of, as we go through and we do that finding organizations that'll help you get in front of people, that'll help you fill those out, and trying to go through here. And that's one of the things that I love about this, that we as an organization, and this podcast is brought to you by one of our sponsors, leadshop.org. And that's what they do, is that they will go through and they work with agents and put them in front of more people. If you're looking to do seminars, leadshop.org, they're the one out there. They'll help you with it. They'll fill the room for you. And we strongly recommend you go out there, get a demo, and that's who I use exclusively. And we do millions of dollars of annuity premium every year. And it's all through leadshop.org that's our exclusive lead source for filling the room when it comes to seminars. But as you're talking about that model of, do you want to get more up front with the like annuities, or do you want to get more on the back end, the residuals with the Medicare, and the different pieces to it? But there is finding a balancing act, finding the model that works for you and your personality. It takes a little bit of time. And the problem is that time's money, and do I have the resources to survive? And you are lucky that you've got the resources to survive. And I remember over the years, there were some rough months there. There were some, as James, he always used to say, and I didn't really understand it until now, a decade in the industry. Some of the best times in my life have been in this industry, but so have some of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And
When I first started, I used my credit card to buy leads. So,
yeah, I
you know,
remember. That's right. Yeah. And it's like, if this doesn't work, there is no safety net. I just spend
hmm
it. Uh,
hmm
but, thank you so much, Keith, for joining with me today these last couple of weeks. I so appreciate it. It's always good to see you and your lovely wife, Rachel. And I think that the information you've given us here is great for new agents, and it's great for existing agents that look at the different models. Look at how you're getting paid. If you love the work, if you like the industry, but I need to make more, but I'm willing to entertain things, and being street level comp may not always be the best thing. Trying to find out what works for your model, what works for your personality. Again, Keith and I started the exact same place. Our business models are completely different. We make comparable income, but we do it very different, selling the same solutions. And so thank you so much for coming on. As always, any of you out there, if you've not liked and subscribed, please click the button below. We look forward to seeing you next week, and thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing day.
Thanks again, Ryan. I appreciate being here.